Hey, what's up, Internet? This is primarily going out initially on Facebook Live, and then you guys over on YouTube will see it, no doubt, soon. As you can tell, 2017 is definitely turning out to be the year of the iPhone for me in this way. It's much more common for me to just want to throw my iPhone on this mount and talk to you guys while I'm driving or while I'm doing something else. That's going to change some. I have finished the plans and figured out what furniture I'm going to use to rebuild my office, which is where you normally see me when I'm not here. You see me sort of silhouetted by my computer workstation. But while that's in process, and even when it does happen, the car is really when I have the dead time to talk to you guys and fill you in on what's going on. Now, we've been talking about books and those sorts of things, and we're gonna get back to that in a moment. But you do know that it's not so much the book it's a book review as much as we're talking about the concepts. Usually it's one concept that each book brought really into my consciousness, and we're going to expand a little bit. We had been talking about maybe that initial sort of 11 to 14 range, and that was a good time to talk about. But now I'm sort of expanding out. Let's talk about other books that had a real impact. And again, impact in this case is going to be a book that introduced me to a concept, or a book that cemented an example of a concept. And today's book to talk about is one that I really find interesting to talk about. So a guy named John Steakley, S-T-E-A-K-L-E-Y, maybe just L-Y. John Steakley. You'll have to look up the exact spelling of the name. He wrote two books. One is a book called Armor, A-R-M-O-R, which is a science fiction book in the vein of Starship Troopers, but not. And he wrote a book called Vampires, V-A-M-P-I-R-E $, at the end, which was a follow-up book. It came after Armor. And in many ways, it explored much of the same territory and didn't have a shared universe, but had a lot of Easter eggs that sort of talked back and forth. But Armor is, more than anything else, a book that illustrates the concept of functional stoicism. So the story of Armor is really straightforward. It's a character who initially you don't really know the name of, who is dropped on a nameless, faceless planet known as Banshee to fight humanoid insect aliens that they call ants. So think like an 8-foot tall ant with pincers, and the ants are trying to kill the humans, and the humans are trying to kill the ants. And much like Starship Troopers, the bugs or the insect race is sort of moving in a horde-like fashion, and they drop some meteors on Earth. And I'm glossing over it because honestly, none of it matters. The politics of the war is irrelevant. The motivation of the aliens never comes into play. The motivations of the humans, in the larger sense, is never really important. You're just left with the idea that we have a military that has enormous technical resources, but not a particularly strong drive to just finish the war. And you have the ants who basically don't care. And none of that matters, except as backstory. But the core of the book, the mid part of the book, is the time that this guy, this dude in this powered armored suit, is on this planet fighting the endless waves of foes, the endless waves of insect ants who are never going to stop. They're never going to run out of them. It doesn't matter how many of them you kill, the others never run away. They don't really have a concept of surrender. They don't really have a concept of personal preservation. They're simply an endless, implacable enemy bent on your destruction. And how do you deal with that psychologically? what does that do to someone to have that sort of a foe against you? And, you know, though the book doesn't really portray this as an admirable quality, the answer of the character in the book is to simply stop thinking of it as a large problem. Instead of fighting, you know, 100,000 ants for days where his batteries will inevitably run out and will certainly be killed in the long run, he's fighting this ant, the one directly in front of him, the one that he can kill. And he's going to fight that ant, and he's going to fight the one behind him, and he's going to do the one behind that. And he's going to do that while he has the power to do it, while he has the battery power. And then as the batteries fade, he's going to keep updating his capabilities to match his circumstances, and he's going to keep doing the best he can on the circumstances he has for as long as he can, in the hopes maybe that something will change. But even at that, he doesn't even hope that. This isn't a strategy for long-term rescue. This is not the hope of victory. This is the negation of defeat. The idea that I am going to hold defeat at bay for as long as possible by every means I have at my disposal, because as long as I am not defeated, I'm not beaten, essentially. As long as I'm not down, I'm not out. And like the best science fiction, as we've spoken about before, the story just provides a context, and the science fiction elements allow the author greater freedom to construct a context they want. It would be very hard to create the same circumstance and the same foe and the same lack of options in a human in a purely realistic setting. You could do it in a fantastical setting, you could do it in a zombie setting, but it would be very hard to do as a regular person, though possible. And from the first moment I read that book, I felt the kinship to that belief system. Now, I do have hope for the future. I do always think in strategic terms. I do have a plan. I am working towards my goals. These things are true. But when I can't see a path to the ultimate victory, when I cannot see a mechanism in this moment of achieving my goals, I will settle for the negation of defeat. I will. I may be, I had a financial bankruptcy way back when I was 19 years old. I got caught up in the real estate of the 80s, and I made a bad real estate investment, and there was an embezzlement problem with the co-op council and the co-op board that I had bought into, and I lost a bunch of money, and in the end it resulted in a personal bankruptcy back then. But even at that, and I mentioned that to you because here you're looking at a situation that was almost inevitable. The money was the money, and it was going to work out that bankruptcy was the right answer. And even at that, day to day, it did not crush me. And it didn't crush me because I woke up that morning and I knew what my priorities were. Food, shelter, get to work, keep access to my car. These are my priorities today. And even as the looming inevitability of the bankruptcy came, I would wake up every day and I would hit those priorities. And as long as I hit those priorities, I could go to sleep that night reasonably certain. And if I only hit 2 of those priorities, then I would get up tomorrow and I would attempt to repair the damage from the one I missed, and so on. Negation of defeat, in the end, works as a fallback strategy until you can get past that moment. Despair is something that happens to you when you realize you cannot achieve victory, right? But it is always possible to mitigate defeat. Under every circumstance, no matter how badly things are going for you, you can deny your opponent some component of their victory conditions, or you can deny the world something, or you can take something back for yourself. And as long as you're willing to accept that as an interim victory, as an interim goal worth achieving, then you are never hopeless. You're never without the capability to improve your circumstance. And in a larger sense, I think I see this in the way different people view the world and the way people speak about success. And, you'll get someone who will say, your success is your own responsibility, that you have the control to change your circumstances and manage where you go in life. And you'll get some people that go, that's not true. You cannot always become a billionaire by your own talents, no matter what you do. You may not always be able to rise out of poverty. You may not always be able to own a home. And as such, if you cannot do those things, then you have no control over your personal trajectory. You are at the mercy of the world around you. And then always the people who I see who believe that phrase, they're not talking about that. They're not saying that no matter what your initial circumstances or talents are, if you work hard, you can be Bill Gates. What they're saying is that no matter what your circumstances are, no matter what your talents are, no matter what your initial conditions are, you can take some action to control your life and improve your lot fractionally. You can make a step forward today, and you can do it again tomorrow. And if you do that over the long run, you will be better off than you would have been otherwise. One philosophy is the philosophy of despair. If I'm not going to become a millionaire, then why do I try? If I'm not going to become a billionaire, if I can't be Bill Gates, then I can't be anyone. If I can't be Bill Gates, then why should I try? If I can't be Bill Gates, then I'm at the mercy of the world around me and I have no control. And that way lies despair. That way lies dependency. That way lies madness. To me, I could not live that way. And this is this philosophy, and there's this moment in that book that became the personal mantra for it. And there's a moment where he is describing this philosophy to someone. He says, I know the ants will get me, which is the name of the aliens. I know the ants will get me, but not this ant. I know you guys will get me, but not you. And I don't make it a habit in this vlog to talk about my dojo or my martial arts. It's something I tend to keep a little bit at a distance because I don't want my opinions and ranting here on the vlog to be sort of conflated with that. But when I was testing for my black belt, that phrase was omnipresent in my mind. You're tired and you're fighting, and there's a seemingly endless wave of opponents in front of you, and at some point that was the voice in my head to just buckle down. Not you, not this fight. And I did it when I was fighting for my bankruptcy. I did it when I was fighting for my black belt. I've done it on days when I didn't think I could make a deadline for a customer, and I didn't see any way for us to accomplish the task we had been given. And yet, you can, I would rouse myself from the 2-hour nap I had taken and turn to the computer and start writing code. Not today. Today I'm going to get that module done. Now, you have to temper this. Because otherwise you go down with the ship and you realize that, the deadline is never going to be hit, and you have people who need a go, no-go decision. And at some point you have to realize that you're not going to succeed. But even that doesn't have to be a moment for despair, because what you do is you just take that on board and you go, is missing this deadline going to kill us? No. Okay, this plan didn't work. So, no, we're not going to make that deadline. Here's our plan to mitigate the damage. Here's our plan to do as well as we can. Here's our plan for this not to be fatal. So I'm going to work as if there's no option to fail, as if there's no fear of failure, right up until it turns out we can't achieve something, and then we're going to make a plan, and we're going to move the goalpost of what we're trying to do, and we're going to go right back to work on that one, and we're not going to let that crush us either. You cannot despair. And to me, though this is not technically and educationally the heart of Stoicism, this is not the literal definition of the philosophical concept in a way that, you know, the highly educated and the scholarly would accept it. But to me, this is at its core. I will accept, I will endure, I will move forward. You know? And if you can do that, if you can make that personal decision to say, this challenge is not going to be the end, even if I don't see a way to victory. This defeat is momentary. You cannot stop me forever. And even in the midst of not getting everything I want, even in the midst of you maybe, you know, the world may be managing to make a bankruptcy inevitable. Well, you know what? I kept my car. I salvaged my car. Or I found a better apartment. Or, you know, I made sure that I was operating in a field where I didn't need a spectacular credit rating to make a living. Or whatever. There's always a way to pull some victory from every circumstance. There's always a way to improve your circumstance. Not this one. This is not the challenge that will put me down. This is not the day that defines me. This is not the problem that is the end of what I can accomplish. And if you have that view, then no single bad event is the end of that story. You know what? Today sucked, maybe. But tomorrow, another 24 hours. And I'm going to set a goal that I can achieve in those 24 hours. And we're going to move forward with that. Anyway, that was the book. And that's the image in my head. A man in powered armor. Think of it like Iron Man. A man in armor, alone on a planet. He's at 20% battery. Night is coming. And there is an endless wave of creatures around him. And when one gets close, he puts his fist through its face because he has no ammo left in the gun. And inside that helmet, you can hear the thought rattle around. Not you. And then the next one steps up, or the next 5, and you know it's going to go on that way. And they may eventually win. But not this one. You can have that voice in your head and go back and watch 300. Watch the battle of outnumbered Spartans. Watch any of these battles. Watch the fight scenes in Gladiator. Watch all of Gladiator. A character that was inevitably going to continue to be put in situations until someday he lost a fight and probably died. So why fight at all? Because not this guy. Not today. Anyway, the book is called Armor. The author is John Steakley. Vampires is also a great book that talks about some of the same similar concepts. It is well worth your time. Those are basically the only 2 books that John Steakley wrote. He never wound up doing a sequel to Armor directly. He never wound up doing a follow-up to Vampires. They made a kind of an exceptionally bad rendition of Vampires as a movie. It's worth seeing because it's kind of funny as a movie of its own, but it's not really faithful to the book. So read the book and then go watch the movie. These are not big books. You can power through them in an afternoon. They're not very expensive on Amazon. Go ahead and read them. Or if you, have a similar view or know a character who has expressed a similar sense of combination of fatalism and optimism that I'm sort of mislabeling as stoicism, in this instance, go ahead and hit me up in the comments and let me know what you think. For those of you who follow these vlogs, I appreciate your audienceship. I appreciate the time you spend. I know there's a lot of content down there. There's a lot of people talking about a lot of things, and I'm not building a ship in my backyard. I'm not skateboarding. I'm just sort of talking about ideas and concepts, and I appreciate you taking the time to listen to them. I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend and a good afternoon. If we don't talk again, enjoy your President's Day. And remember to jump over to Herd Watching. HERDWATCHING. Herd Watching. I've been doing a couple more political rants over there. And jump over to YouTube. And you will be able to find my vlog over there. Reminder that I am going to be setting up a vlog page on Facebook, like a fan page for these vlogs. So I will be moving or also putting this video on that one with all the other videos. And you can go ahead and I'll put a link in the description. Make sure you go like and follow that page, because eventually these live vlogs will only appear on that page, and you will not get these notifications if you are not following that page as well. Oh, look at that. We're almost done. A couple people are joining. Rui, hey man, it's been forever since I got a chance to chat with you. I hope everything is going well. Tony, thanks for sticking your head in, buddy. I think you might dig this video if you go back and watch it. I see, you have that stuff decorating your house. There's a lot of artifacts. And I think that sense of stoicism in the face of overwhelming odds might be a concept that you would connect to. So I'd be very interested in hearing your thoughts on whatever fiction or non-fictional accounts might be an interesting view into that sort of thought process. All right, guys, I'm going to grab some lunch, and I got to go and write a whole bunch of code today. Take it easy, everybody.